for them. It could be actually doing the reporting itself.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky, we spoke about once in a lifetime kind of projects.
Yeah.
I've done 2 of them now. So yeah, I don't know if
that's statistically unlikely, but it's wonderful.
Yeah, so and working for a global firm as well, it means that I've done work for a lot of companies in Europe as well. So it's not just to the South African market, which is very cool because it just gives you that variety and something different.
And I think what's interesting with that is that I think sometimes people don't think about that as an attraction of actuarial science, in that you can move quite easily around the world and find a job quite easily,
Yes.
And also, as you say, work with sort of a variety of different teams, especially with how interconnected work is now. I mean, you're situated in South Africa and working with an UK team, right?
Yes. And I think our qualification with the Actuarial Society is one that's quite esteemed. And that's nice because it means then that our colleagues in Europe know that our qualification is as good as theirs.
Yeah.
And our quality of work is as good as theirs. So a client wouldn't have a problem
having
working with a South African that's a fellow of the Actuarial Society, because they know that that's as good as a fellow of the institute or fellow of the faculty. So that's a nice, it's a nice advantage of our FASA designation.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell me, I mean, talking about FASA designation, you wrote your fellowship in life insurance.
Yes.
If you could just talk to or even mention some of the topics that you write on in that fellowship, like what are the topics you had to study and master in order to write that fellowship exam?
So I think with most fellowship exams, valuation type questions are always a big part of your course. And that's the same for life insurance.
Yeah.
But then you start getting into some specifics. And just given, so I passed my fellowship in 2021, which was a time when a lot of conversation around IFRS 17 was very much a hot topic in the industry. So it lent itself to very interesting exam questions.
Yeah.
So, some of the...
Now, when you say interesting, we mean hard.
Definitely, yeah. So it made it less predictable in a way.
Yeah.
There were certain topics that we knew were popular exam questions. But suddenly now, it made you wonder, like, how relevant is this in a world that's in 2 years' time? We're not sure that certain things have a place in.
Yeah, it felt like a bit in limbo, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you a little bit caught between, I want to make sure I give this enough attention in case it comes up because it's part of my course. But realistically, it's probably not the most interesting, relevant thing for them to examine. So, yeah, it was maybe not the best time to write the fellowship exam while we were in this interesting transition phase. Yeah. But I think the important skill that I've picked up from the life fellowship, and I'm sure that's true for all of them, is just to be able to think from first principles and just have a good understanding of your actuarial...
100%.
Your actuarial
breakdowns.
Exactly, yeah. And I think no matter which subject you decide to write in, that's ultimately the skill that you need to pass.
100%, 100%. And so my last question to you is, do you regret at any point, well, do you regret now all the work you put in qualifying as an actuary, or do you think that it was worth it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So when you're kind of caught up in the middle of it and it feels like it's not working, and the harder you work, the harder you fail almost, you do wonder, is it worth it? I'm not sure, should I, it's only going to get harder from here.
Yeah.
Is all this time and effort I've put in actually going to give me this enjoyment of my job and my life that I think it will? And I can say for sure it has. And it is the greatest single thing I could have done for myself, and I don't regret it at all.
Yeah, I always say to my students, there's never been a day since I qualified as an actuary that I regretted doing so.
Yep, I don't regret one single thing.
And it's very easy to say when you've climbed the mountain and you're at the peak, right? It's difficult when you're climbing the mountain, but it's been a phenomenal journey. And I think for me, linking back to what you said, just the way of thinking is the thing I take with me. Like, I've worked as a school teacher, and even there, I realized that I thought differently to my colleagues because I qualified as an actuary, and it's just such a phenomenal skill. But you don't see that when you're building those proficiencies,
Yes. And I think you only realize just how much you've evolved and your depth of thoughts has changed
100%.
When you get to the end and look back at where you started. It's amazing to think.
And sometimes it's a very long journey.
And it's because it's a very steep learning curve.
Yeah, it is. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. I so appreciate you taking the time. It's been a joy knowing you and walking this journey with you. And it's amazing. If we had told our younger selves that would be sitting here. I don't know if we would have believed us, but I'm glad that both of us are qualified and we can now encourage people younger than us, or older than us. People who are interested in actuarial science.
Definitely.
In these spaces. So thank you very much for being on the podcast, Youth.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review on your preferred streaming platform. If you'd like to interact with us more or add questions or topics to our pool of ideas, please follow our Instagram page at AS4Actuary or email us on asforactuary@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Take care.